Years ago, Leon sent me to prison on the grounds of attempted murder, saying he wanted to teach me a lesson. No matter how I explained that I wasn't even there, and even knelt on the ground begging him, he was convinced that I was jealous and had meticulously planned to kill his first love, Snow. Life in prison was not easy. Leon had specifically arranged for me to be locked up with the most vicious inmates. On the first day, my teeth were knocked out, and blood filled my mouth, spilling from the corners before I could swallow it. They casually stepped on my head, and any attempt to struggle only resulted in more brutal beatings. Not long after being imprisoned, I was tortured to death. When Leon finally remembered me and came to see me with his bodyguards, I had been dead for 3 years. He frowned as he entered the reception room, which seemed especially cold and gloomy in winter. Later, regardless of whether she agrees or not, tie her up if necessary to make her sign the donation consent form. He looked around the environment with disgust. What kind of hellhole is this? Why isn't she here yet? Tell them to hurry up. After waiting for a long time, the bodyguards finally brought someone to the door. But it wasn't me, it was the head inmate of our cell. Mr. Leon, you've been waiting for a while. I wanted to bring Summer, but... But what? Leon's expression suddenly darkened. She won't even come to see me? If she hadn't ruthlessly pushed Snow off the cruise ship back then, Snow wouldn't need her kidney. It's not like that. Summer might not be able to come see you. The head inmate wiped away cold sweat. There's been an unexpected situation. Leon's expression grew even more impatient. Is she enjoying her stay here? Tell her that as long as she's willing, I can let her stay here as long as she wants. He waved his hand in disgust, gesturing for the head inmate to quickly bring me over, like shooing away a fly. But he couldn't see that my soul was hovering above them, looking down with a bitter expression at his cold demeanor. The head inmate didn't move. Seeing her hesitant and evasive look, Leon immediately frowned. What? Does Summer really not want to see me that much? The head inmate quickly denied it. No, it's that Summer is no longer here, she can't come to see you. Of course, I'm not here. Apart from my soul that no one can see, my body isn't here either. On the day I died, they thought I was bad luck and threw my body out. Now, my body has probably long been digested by some wild animal in the mountains behind and turned into fertilizer. Leon clearly didn't believe the jailer's words. He sneered and ordered the bodyguards to watch the head inmate. He began searching through each cell in the building himself. There were many prison cells. As he went from one to another, his expression grew uglier. He even had the jailer check the roll call list 3 times, but my name was still not there. His face became more and more unpleasant, and he sternly questioned the jailer. I said no one is allowed to let her out, right? What did you take my words for? The jailer had taken a lot of money from Leon. How could he dare to disobey him? Back then, I was tortured by those perverts until my body was completely battered. I knelt on the ground begging them to let me go, but not one of them showed even a moment of mercy. Even when I cried bitterly and kowtowed, they didn't let me go. Leon sat down with a cold expression and ordered the jailer to bring me to him within 3 minutes. The jailer, having no other choice, had to brace himself and tell the truth. Mr. Leon, I'll tell you the truth, Summer died a long time ago. I guarantee, she died a miserable death. The bed was covered in her blood. There wasn't a single intact spot on her body. That room is still uncleaned. On the day she died, we threw her body to the back mountain. Leon didn't believe such words at all. His expression became even more impatient. What benefits did Summer give you to let her go and cover for her? She caused Snow to be physically weak now. Does she think she can escape the issue like this? You dare to conspire with her to deceive me? The jailer repeatedly explained. No, that's not it, Mr. Leon. I wouldn't dare. I absolutely did not deceive you. To prove his words, he hurriedly took out a photo. I specifically took a photo at that time. Please don't let it spread. Leon looked over impatiently, but the moment his gaze fell on the photo, his pupils suddenly contracted. The photo showed a twisted figure. She lay naked on the bed, her spine twisted into an exaggerated arc, her body covered with unhealed whip marks and cigarette burns. Her upturned face was covered with bloody scratches, and only her eyes vaguely resembled her former self. Her open mouth was a dark cavity, all her teeth had been pulled out. Her slender fingers were bloody and mangled, as if her nails had been forcibly removed. It was clear that this was a long-dead corpse. Leon's entire body stiffened, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. But quickly, he composed his expression. "Is this special effects makeup? It's done really well. At first glance, it really looks like summer. Do you take me for a fool? Isn't this place just about daily meals, exercise, and at most, solitary confinement? How could she possibly sustain such severe injuries? Moreover, if she was injured like this, why wasn't she sent to the hospital? The makeup is so exaggerated, it's obvious it's fake." I snorted coldly, as expected. In his heart, all my pain and grievances are pretended. Even if the evidence is placed right in front of him, it won't change his mind. It was clearly he who arranged for people to take care of me, and now he's pretending to be completely unaware. If it weren't for him, how could I have died here in such pain and humiliation? During the last brutal beating, I couldn't take it anymore. I knelt on the ground, clinging to the iron bars, begging the jailer to call him or even just send a message. But Leon just coldly replied, "If she's going to die, let her die sooner, don't disgust me." Even so, even though Leon had abandoned me, I still wanted to live. I was only 23 years old when I kowtowed to the jailer, to those inmates who mocked and beat me. I heard the cheap floor thumping as I knocked my head against it, blood from my forehead mixing with my tears and the dirt on the ground to form a pool of dark red viscous liquid. I felt I couldn't lift my head anymore. A jailer opened the door and stepped on my head. I heard their unscrupulous loud mockery. "Isn't this woman supposed to be a top student from B University? So spineless." Hey, as expected from B University, her head knocks louder than the previous ones. The head inmate couldn't bear to watch and said to me, "Summer, it's not that I won't let you go, even if I did, it wouldn't help. There are no hospitals within hundreds of kilometers. Do you have money? How would you get there? You don't even have an ID card. Even if you went to a hospital, you couldn't get treatment. Accept your fate. If you can survive, it's your destiny. If you can't, it's also your destiny. In your next life, remember to keep your eyes open and find a good person." After saying that, she waved her hand, and the people around grinned maliciously as they approached. Their faces distorted in my vision. Before I could catch my breath, a flying kick came, and I heard the cracking sound of my bones breaking. I had no strength left to struggle and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Forcing myself to swallow the blood that kept gushing out, I thought, "This is it, I'm really tired." 10 minutes later, with my eyes open, I was thrown into the woods behind the mountain by them. Leon glanced at the sweating jailer and snorted coldly. "That's enough, right? Call Summer out. Come out now, sign the donation consent form, and besides letting her leave, I can also give her 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan. I thought I was already numb, but hearing this number, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Leon spared no expense for Snow, not to mention those globally limited edition sports cars and cruise ships. Even one of Snow's dresses costs far more than 100,000. And this is the price he's willing to pay for one of my kidneys. So, he's not inherently cold, his coldness is only towards me. For the person he loves, he can also go to any lengths. The jailer was almost kneeling on the ground, explaining to him that I was really dead, but for some reason, Leon was convinced that I and the jailer were conspiring to deceive him. Dead? If she's dead, where is Summer's body? Where is the tombstone? Where is the death certificate? Can a single photo be considered evidence? If you don't hand her over today, I guarantee you'll wish you were dead. Having no choice, the jailer took Leon to a wasteland behind the mountain. He marked out a general area. Mr. Leon, her body was probably buried around here back then. Leon sneered, dig. I want to see her alive or dead. I don't believe I can't find Summer. Digging up someone's grave is undoubtedly the greatest disrespect to the deceased. The bodyguards hesitated for a moment, but seeing Leon's determined expression, they began to dig. Leon remained expressionless throughout, coldly watching the bodyguard's actions. I watched all this in pain, not understanding why he hated me to this extent. The jailer closed his eyes and made the sign of the cross, seemingly afraid that my vengeful spirit had not yet dissipated and would haunt him once the grave was opened. But soon, the bodyguards dug up the area, and it was empty, not even a piece of clothing was there. Where is Summer? Where is the person? Where is the body? Didn't you tell me she was buried here? Not even a bone? Don't tell me you got the wrong grave. Leon's emotions were suppressed to the lowest point, like a bowstring pulled to its limit, ready to snap at the slightest touch. The jailer widened his eyes, saying in horror, "That's impossible. I buried her after seeing her body being eaten by wild dogs. How is this possible? My body isn't here?" I was puzzled myself. Leon sneered, "Have you acted enough? Are you going to say next that her body was dug up and eaten by wild dogs? Fine. You're really something." He was about to order the bodyguards on how to deal with the jailer who disobeyed him when the phone suddenly rang. Hearing the ringtone, his expression instantly softened. It was Snow. "Snow, are you awake?" I couldn't control my emotions for a moment. I certainly resented Leon, the jailer, the head inmate, and those inmates who beat me, but the one I hated the most was Snow. If it weren't for her framing me, how could I have been thrown in here and died so miserably? Snow sounded as if she was on the verge of death, her weak voice came intermittently from the phone. "Leon, if Summer is unwilling, let's just forget it." "I'm fine." "Nonsense." Leon interrupted her urgently. "These are all things Summer owes you. If it weren't for her, how could you be bedridden? How could you have contracted kidney failure due to an accident? Back then, at the seaside, it was you who saved me. If not for you, I would have died long ago. The fact that Summer is a match shows its destiny. Even if I have to dig 3 feet into the ground, I will definitely find her for you." "Seaside?" I was somewhat stunned. Snow sounded a bit puzzled. "Dig 3 feet into the ground? Why say that? What happened?" Leon told her about my disappearance. "Disappeared?" Snow sounded even more puzzled. "That's impossible. I received a message from Summer this morning. She's lying." I was so angry I almost screamed, but no matter how anxious I was, I couldn't convey any information to Leon. Snow's gentle voice sounded like a snake hissing in my ears. "She said she left a message for you at her family's old house. I really don't know how she got in. That house has been sealed for years." After hanging up the phone, Leon's eyes became sinister again. He glanced at the still trembling jailer and the empty grave, then turned and left with his bodyguards. My family's old house had been uninhabited for 10 years, this was where Leon and I first met. Leon walked into the room with a cold face, he didn't like this place. In the dusty living room, he saw Summer's letter. After just one glance, he furiously tore the letter into pieces. The letter had only a few words: "Leon, you will never find me." In fact, upon closer inspection, that letter was not in my handwriting at all. But Leon knew nothing. He angrily smashed the surrounding vases and decorations to the ground. "Summer, you'd better hide far away, or I'll make sure you wish you were dead." Seeing Leon panting heavily with red eyes, I couldn't help but shrink back. The bone-chilling cold I felt before death surged up from the bottom of my heart again. Before I could recover from the recent fear, the house's door was slowly pushed open by a middle-aged woman. Seeing the person standing in the living room, a trace of suspicion appeared on her weary face. "Leon? You still dare to come to the Schur family?" Looking at the middle-aged woman in front of me, my fingertips trembled uncontrollably. "This is my sister, she's only 1 year older than me. Calculating her age, she's only 27 this year, but she already looks haggard, with her hair starting to turn white." Seeing my sister, Leon's eyes lit up. "You know where Summer is, right? Make her come out." Hearing my name, my sister looked at Leon with hatred. "Don't use your filthy mouth to call Summer's name. How dare you ask where Summer is? Didn't you kill her long ago? Obviously, such an answer couldn't satisfy Leon. Yes, you're Summer's sister, of course, you would help her cover up. Leon's eyes flashed with ferocity, he reached out and fiercely grabbed my sister's neck. Who do you think you are? The Sure family has been bankrupt for how many years? You dare to deceive me? I just want one of Summer's kidneys. It's not like she'll die. I anxiously tried to grab his hand, wanting him to let go of my sister, whose face was gradually turning purple. But my hands could only pass through his vein-bulging arms again and again. The bodyguard nearby saw that the situation was bad and finally stepped forward to save my sister. My sister knelt on the ground, gasping for air, while I stood in front of her, glaring at Leon. How could he treat my sister like this? Back when the Lin family went bankrupt and he came to our home, it was my sister who took care of him. My sister pitied him for being young and took extra care of him. It's no exaggeration to say that she treated him better than she treated me, her own sister. Leon stared fixedly at my disheveled sister, and the next second, he walked straight through my body and viciously pulled her hair. I'll ask you one last time, where is Summer? My sister smiled bitterly and said, I'll tell you one last time, Summer has already been killed by you. Leon let go, and under my sister's cold gaze, he ordered the bodyguards to drag her to the window. Summer, are you here? I don't want to search room by room. I'll count down from 10, you'd better come out yourself, or I'll push your sister down. This is the 3rd floor, think carefully. He turned around and scanned the hall, slowly pacing while counting down. 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. As the countdown ended, his emotions finally erupted, and he punched the coffee table. Fine. Summer, you're really something. Let's see how long you can hide. I knelt in front of him, crying and begging him to spare my sister. But he couldn't hear anything. As he waved to the bodyguards, I rushed towards my sister. The bodyguards, ignoring her struggles, pushed her from the 3rd floor. I could only vainly grasp at her clothes. My sister was like a bird with broken wings. With her scream, there was a loud crash. I, with tears of blood, followed her out the window and landed beside her. My sister lay powerlessly on the ground, her frail body trembling slightly, blood gushing from her pale lips with each cough. Her eyes looked vacantly into the air, then with a sense of relief, she looked at me. Leon walked to her side, his cold eyes showing no trace of sympathy. Do you remember now? Where is Summer? My sister breathed with difficulty, her voice weak as she said, She's in the freezer on the 2nd floor. Go find her yourself. Leon sneered, I knew it, you two sisters are really cut from the same cloth, not giving up until the last moment. The Sure family's old house had a large freezer on the 2nd floor used as a warehouse. Leon pushed the door open and said, Summer, come out. The freezer was silent. Leon rubbed his temples, Fine, let's see how you hide in here. He stopped the bodyguards who wanted to help and began opening the freezer lids one by one himself. The first one, nothing. The second one, nothing. The 15th one, Leon opened the lid. The next second, he suddenly turned pale and began to tremble. In the freezer was a person with only half a body. On the ice was a blood-written note, with words in dark red from dried blood, Leon, I don't want you anymore. Leon stared intently at the corpse's bruised and swollen face, while I, in the void, gazed at my own face. This was me, and the blood-written note was indeed written by me before I died. I didn't know why I appeared here, but I suppose I fulfilled Leon's wish. He did find me, but I had long become a cold corpse. My sister was brought over by the bodyguards. Seeing my corpse, she cried out in pain, Summer. I fulfilled your last wish. I can finally join you, wait for me. Leon was still staring at my face. He ignored my sister's words, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. It's impossible, how could Summer be dead? But no matter how many times he rubbed his eyes, all he saw was my frozen, broken face. This can't be. I clearly arranged for people to take care of her. He muttered to himself like a madman. Take care of me? I looked at him strangely. Weren't the people he arranged to take care of me the very ones who caused my misery? Why does Leon look surprised? Leon urgently turned back and grabbed my sister's shoulders. You know, right? You must know something. How did she die? Why did you say you fulfilled her last wish? You saw her last moments, didn't you? Please tell me. As he spoke, he actually shed tears. My sister looked at him and laughed coldly. She couldn't control her coughing, spitting out dark red blood mixed with pink flesh. Her internal organs were completely shattered from the fall. You ask me? How Summer died, don't you know best? As for her last wish, since you've already seen her, I'll tell you. Leon stared at her intently, his eyes full of longing. I looked at the blood on my sister's lips with heartache. After I was imprisoned by Leon and disappeared, he told others that I was just unwell and resting. My sister felt something was wrong and had been secretly searching for my whereabouts. Whether it was missing person notices or asking around, there was no news of me until she spent money to hire a private detective and finally learned of my whereabouts. Unfortunately, it was too late. When she arrived, she happened to witness the jailer and the head inmate who beat me to death secretly carrying my body out and throwing it to the back mountain. She secretly followed them, wanting to see if that broken body was her sister. Only when they had gone far away did she dare to approach me, but she only saw my already cold corpse. It was then that she found the blood-written note clutched in my hand, which I hadn't let go of even in death. One was a farewell letter to Leon. The other was left for my sister, my last relative in this world. Speaking of this, my sister was already in tears. Leon asked in disbelief, "You mean what that jailer said is true? Summer was really tortured and beaten to death by them? She was really beaten to death alive? How is this possible? I specifically arranged for people to take care of her. How could there be no news at all?" Arranged people? My sister asked him with a bitter smile, "You mean those people who killed Summer?" In the letter Summer left me, it's written clearly who killed her. In the letter to my sister, I entrusted her with handling my posthumous affairs. Actually, I didn't know if this letter would ever reach my sister. I asked her to keep the farewell letter I wrote to Leon. If Leon came to take me home, then tell him about my death. If Leon came to see me for other purposes, then forget it. This farewell letter can also serve as a conclusion to our years of entangled relationship. I didn't expect Leon to clear up his misunderstandings about me. But I didn't expect that for this wish, my sister would hide my body in the freezer for 3 years. After hearing all this, Leon painfully knelt on the ground. "This can't be true," he cried out in agony. "It must be Summer tricking me. Angularity. Please, come out. I was wrong, it's all my fault, please come out and see me one more time." I floated in the air, watching every expression on his face. We had known each other for a long time. I knew he was truly in pain and truly unwilling to believe that I was dead. My corpse was still lying in front of him, there was no point in deceiving himself any longer. But I didn't understand, weren't those people who took care of me arranged by him? How could he know nothing about it? Moreover, I saw with my own eyes the jailer calling him. Could there be someone else behind my tragic death? Leon sat on the ground, crying in pain, until my sister spat out another mouthful of blood. Only then did he wake up as if from a dream and get up to support her. "Sister, I didn't mean it, I really didn't intend to hurt you. I just thought Summer was tricking me and wanted to force her out. I'll immediately send you to the best hospital and get the best doctors to treat you. I'll take good care of you on behalf of Summer." My sister had no mind to pay attention to him, it was as if the last heavy stone in her heart had been removed, and she just stared blankly into the void, tears streaming down. Leon immediately ordered the bodyguards to send my sister to his private hospital. My body had been frozen for too long, identifying the cause of death would be difficult and would take some time to get results. After arranging for the doctors, Leon composed his emotions and left. Seeing that my sister was out of danger, I also followed Leon and got into the car going home. I was already dead and couldn't be brought back, but at least, I wanted to know who exactly killed me. Even if nothing could be changed, I at least needed to know the truth. I followed Leon, whose face was so gloomy it could drip water, back to the villa where we once lived together. The new mistress of this villa was none other than Snow, who framed me. She sat gently by the table, the warm light from the fireplace making her face look especially soft. Seeing Leon return, she smiled and greeted him. "Leon, you're back. Why so late? Have you eaten?" Seeing her, Leon forced a smile. "It's my fault, I was delayed by some matters today and was too busy to come back to have dinner with you." At this point, Snow said with a dim expression, "It's all because my health is too poor, I can't accompany you." Leon quickly covered her mouth with his hand. "What nonsense are you talking? If it weren't for Summer pushing you into the sea back then, you wouldn't be so weak. If it weren't for you saving me from drowning in the river back then, I wouldn't be alive today. All this is what I should do." I saw Snow purse her lips, seemingly a bit nervous as she asked, "Speaking of Summer, did you find her?" Leon was silent for a moment before replying softly with disappointment, "No, I didn't find her." A flash of joy passed through Snow's eyes. "Snow, you would never lie to me, right?" At some point, Leon had lifted his head and was looking straight at Snow. Snow was a bit flustered but still firmly said, "Of course." I couldn't help but sneer. For years ago, Leon asked me the same question, and I answered the same way. The next day, I was thrown into prison by Leon. But if it's Snow? Sure enough, Leon seemed to relax and smiled, saying, "That's good." Just then, Snow's phone suddenly rang. It was her best friend Lana. She smiled apologetically at Leon and answered the call. Lana on the other end of the phone seemed to be at a nightclub. She shouted loudly, "Snow! Are you free tomorrow? Let's go to the beach again. That hunk today was so hot. Why don't you learn to swim? Otherwise, you two could have had a lover's bath." This sentence was like a drop of water into a hot oil pan, exploding in Leon's ears. Snow's face changed drastically, and she looked at Leon in panic. "Leon, let me explain. Lana forced me to go." Leon couldn't care less about the hunk, his face was gloomy, and he asked with a nearly ferocious expression, "Snow, didn't you say you wouldn't lie to me? Then can you explain how, if you can't swim, you saved me from drowning in the river?" Watching this scene from the air, I thought, as expected. When Snow had her accident, Leon asked me the same way if I had ever lied to him. After I swore I had never lied to him, he stared at my face and suddenly slapped me. Then he had me tied up and sent to prison. Looking at the angry Leon and the pleading Snow, I found it incredibly ironic. This scene was so similar to what happened to me back then. In fact, from beginning to end, I never believed there was anything wrong with Snow's health. After all, framing me wasn't the first time she did something like this. This time, the fall into the sea was obviously self-directed. How could she possibly put herself in danger? Snow stiffened slightly at Leon's questioning, but after all, she had been acting in front of Leon for so many years. She pretended to be relaxed and said, "Leon, you must have misheard. She said I don't swim now." "Is that so?" "Then let's say I misheard that sentence." Leon sneered, "So you still went to the beach? Didn't you tell me that after being pushed into the sea, you developed a fear of water?" Snow looked at him with a pale face, unable to say another word. Leon looked at her calmly as the bodyguards grabbed the now weak-kneed Snow and locked her in the basement. "You can't do this to me, Leon. You can't do this to me." Leon stood silently, watching the woman he once loved most struggle pathetically. "Don't worry, I'll keep you alive, just to repay the favor of you saving my life back then. But for lying to me that you were pushed into the sea by Summer, I'll settle that account with you properly. If I find out you deliberately framed Summer." As Leon watched Snow disappear from sight, the private detective called. "Mr. Leon, regarding the matter you mentioned, we have investigated it clearly. Almost every medical record of Miss Snow, whether physical or psychological, has been forged. A related doctor has already confessed that Miss Snow gave him money to forge the medical records, so your guess is correct. Miss Snow's fall into the sea was staged. Leon gripped his phone tightly, remaining silent for a long time before softly acknowledging. The other side continued. In Miss Snow's medical records, the part about kidney failure is true, she does have kidney failure. However, the cause of the kidney failure is not due to infection but due to excessive indulgence. Now, the kidney she had transplanted is also at a critical point. If not intervened and treated in time, it could endanger her life. So, for the next step, what do you think? This time, before the other side could finish, Leon interrupted. Transplanted kidney? Are you sure there's no mistake? Leon could no longer remain calm. The things he had always believed were overturned, and he could no longer control his emotions. He asked several times in a row, and the detective on the other end hesitated, checked the information in hand, and then firmly said, "That's right, I'm very sure about this. Miss Snow did undergo a kidney transplant surgery about 3 years ago. The scar on her body should be from that time. Were you unaware of this? But the other corpse you had the hospital investigate for the cause of death is the kidney donor?" I couldn't hear the rest. The phone slipped from Leon's hand and shattered on the ground. From the smooth floor, I could even see Leon's face, desperate and trembling with immense shock. 3 days later, Leon cremated my body. He stood in front of the incinerator, weeping as he looked at my tortured and battered corpse. In these 3 days, he had sent people to find out the whole truth. My birthday party on the cruise ship was organized by Snow. She and her good friend planned everything, finding a stand-in to pretend to be her jumping into the sea. The purpose of all this was to frame me and make me leave Leon forever. She succeeded. Leon unconditionally stood by the side of the person he thought saved his life, mercilessly sending me to prison, claiming it was to have someone teach me a lesson. But after all, we grew up together as childhood sweethearts, and he was still worried about me, so he specifically arranged for people to take care of me in prison. When Snow learned about this, she was afraid that Leon was only temporarily angry with me. She had an idea and deliberately emphasized the word take care when relaying the message to the people Leon entrusted, making them think that taking care meant to severely punish me. In this way, Snow told Leon that I was very disobedient inside, always arguing and even fighting with others. Leon believed it without hesitation. When I called him for help, he thought I was causing trouble again and rejected me without hesitation, cutting off my last chance of survival. After she first discovered her kidney failure, she ordered those people to kill me and took my kidney to continue her life of luxury and debauchery. Afraid that Leon would discover her little tricks, Snow forged that provocative letter placed on the table in my family's old house. The purpose was to make Leon think I had escaped and would never return to him. The truth was like the sharpest knife, stabbing deeply into Leon's heart. I watched coldly from the sky as he ordered his subordinates to take Snow to the cruise ship where she claimed to have been pushed off. He madly ignored her struggles and cries, intending to inflict on her all the torture and humiliation I suffered in prison. Leon personally used a knife to slash Snow's face, pulled out her nails one by one, and used pliers to forcibly extract her teeth. Finally, Leon took out a scalpel, ordered the bodyguards to hold Snow down, cut open her abdomen, and removed the kidney she had stolen from me after killing me. "You don't deserve to use Summer's organ," Leon, his face covered in blood, said to Snow like a madman. "You've used it for 3 years, it's time to return it." Snow was already on the verge of death but still begging continuously, "No, Mr. Leon, I was wrong, I let down Miss Summer. Please spare my life. Didn't you say Summer pushed you into the sea? Then, as you wish." After saying that, Leon signaled his subordinates to throw her into the sea. As for those people in the prison, Leon didn't let them off either. He used all his money and connections to increase their sentences, making them torment each other and never think of getting out. What is this? Leon's compensation to me? I don't understand. Perhaps he just wants to alleviate his own guilt. I watched him go from being utterly indifferent to me to being extremely remorseful now. But I don't feel happy at all. Perhaps every time he indiscriminately sided with Snow, when he sent me to prison, I had already stopped loving him. During that year in prison, what sustained me was only the will to survive and my attachment to my sister. From the moment I heard him tell me to die, I had no feelings left for Leon, only complete indifference. When my ashes were delivered to Leon, he acted as if I had abandoned him, holding my urn and crying incessantly. I was wrong, Summer, I was really wrong. I shouldn't have believed Snow, shouldn't have hurt your sister, and shouldn't have doubted you. Rest assured, I've avenged you. I didn't let any of those people go. He arranged for people to take good care of my sister who was still in the hospital and signed a property transfer agreement, transferring all his assets to my sister. Then, he came alone with my urn to the cemetery. There was a tombstone my sister had erected for me, on which I was smiling brightly, unaware of what was to come. Leon lifted the stone slab of the tombstone, inside which was only one of my clothes. He placed my urn inside and was about to say something when the police unexpectedly walked in. "Mr. Leon, we received a report that you are suspected of being involved in a case of bribing a jailer. Please come with us." Leon didn't turn around, he reached out and touched my photo, as if recalling my face. "Summer, I really miss you. The last murderer who harmed you, I will personally give you an account." After saying this, he suddenly crashed into the stone pillar beside the tombstone. Blood slowly flowed from his forehead, seeping into the soil and my tombstone. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Before I could react, Leon's soul slowly floated out of his body. "Summer." He looked at me and floated towards me. But my vision gradually blurred, watching myself slowly dissipate. I gave him a faint smile. "Leon, I told you, I don't want you anymore."